accidentally arrived in the starving Stone Age. Not only do I have endless delicacies to eat every day, I even have countless underlings waiting on me hand and foot. Every day I ride a mammoth, being a carefree and happy idle young master. I thought I could just lie flat and enjoy life from now on. I never expected. Major tribes are lining up to join my command, all because I transmigrated to a primitive world, and became the chieftain of a primitive tribe right from the start, while other tribes are still hunting with stone axes. My tribe is already riding giant beasts on killing sprees. When neighbors are still drilling wood to make fire, my tribe directly uses natural gas stoves to light fires, eating hot pot and barbecue. At this moment, I was slowly waking up, appraising the surrounding environment. I saw a few people gathered around an old man nearby. I saw him take a deep breath, obviously about to leave his last words. After I die, Xiao Jin will take over as chieftain. You must respect him as you respect me. Everyone stared blankly, but then nodded heavily. I was incredibly shocked in my heart. The old man before me was the chieftain of the Jiang tribe. He was heavily injured and dying. The worst part was that the tribe's sacred fire had been stolen. The old man reached out and stroked my head. Just let this old man do one last thing for this tribe. We will have to rely on you from now on. Before I could react, I suddenly felt my scalp tighten, and couldn't help but close my eyes. A mysterious piece of information flooded into my mind. I don't know how long passed. I opened my eyes again, and found the old man's face ghastly pale. His oil was exhausted and his lamp was dying. It was obvious he didn't have much time left. I was still incredibly shocked in my heart. Just as I figured out what was going on, I had become the great chieftain of this primitive tribe, and inherited such a huge mess. Right at this moment, a voice rang out in my heart, because the host previously commented 666 great chieftain on a video. The system has started successfully, rewarding 100 achievement points. Although I felt it was a bit absurd and bizarre, but on second thought, if I could even transmigrate, could a system be any more bizarre than that? The system prompted, "Are you sure? You want to spend 100 achievement points for a life-sustaining pill? Confirm. Exchange successful." I instantly realized a small pill had appeared in the palm of my hand. I fed the pill into the old man's mouth. 3 minutes later, seeing the old man's chest rising and falling again, the people around all showed surprise and excitement, but I turned around and shook my head. I could only help Grandpa cling to life for 3 days. Within 3 days, if we can't think of another way, Grandpa will still. Before I could finish, the old man slowly woke up. The bright color reappeared in his eyes. Without asking much, he spoke directly. "Don't worry about me. Travel light. Migrate eastward as quickly as possible. Moreover, our sacred fire was stolen. Without fire, my Jiang tribe might face extinction." The old man spoke weakly, but what I said next made them all gasp in surprise. "I can make fire." I looked up and asked, "Is there any dry wood, a dry branch, and some dry hair?" Hearing me say this, everyone was very confused, but no one dared to question it. I sorted out the method of drilling wood to make fire from my past life, asked for a bone knife, dug a small hole in the dry rotten wood, then placed the dry branch on top of it, clamped it with both hands, and rubbed it rapidly. The people around didn't dare to breathe, all staring dead at me. Soon, blue smoke rose from the junction of the wood. I quickly placed the prepared animal hair on it, blew gently with my mouth. The blue smoke grew thicker. Everyone present was filled with excitement and ecstasy. A wisp of yellow flame suddenly appeared in the blue smoke. Though there was only a single wisp of flame, it lit up the hope of everyone present. So I followed Li Hu out of the tribe. Right after the two of us stepped out of the thatched hut, Li Hu shouted loudly, "Our tribe has fire again. Everyone can rest assured. No need to migrate. And the one who made the fire is precisely our great chieftain of Jiang." The people around also all knelt on one knee at this moment. I scratched my head, just about to speak, when another message came to my mind. "You have completed drilling wood for fire. Drilling wood to make fire for primitive tribes has epic making significance. Gained 1000 achievement points." I rejoiced in my heart, and immediately entered the system mall interface. Redeemed the healing spell. I instantly realized a paragraph of information surging in my mind. It was actually a combination of incantations and hand seals to stir up the secrets within this heaven and earth, activating the old man's vitality to be able to save him. So I opened my eyes, walked straight into the old man's room, stretched out both hands and placed them on the unconscious old man's forehead, silently murmuring the incantation. Then a pale green light lit up all around, flowing entirely into the top of the old man's head along my palms, regarding everything before my eyes. I simply couldn't believe that I was actually casting magic. I sighed in my heart. Soon the old man's eyes opened again. After noticing my actions, his eyes couldn't help but reveal shock. "Xiao Jin, you've entered meditation," the old man whispered. I was taken aback and hurriedly nodded. "I was just thinking entirely about how to save you." and then I acquired the healing spell. The old man's eyes showed relief and pleasant surprise, thinking that I am now the great chieftain of the tribe. Afterward, I gathered the young and strong men in the tribe. Half of those with bone knives went to chop enough branches. The rest all went to pick up stones. The Jiang tribe was located in a place surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, leaving only an exit on the west side. The west side was a relatively low jungle. The previous raiders had entered the tribe from here, and what I needed to do was to build a protective wall on the western side. Laying on the thatched bed at night, recalling the day's experiences, it was like a dream. From morning till night, I only ate 2 meals. Both meals were smoky, fire-roasted meat. The burnt, slightly bitter taste on the meat made it hard to swallow, and the water I drank still had sand and mud in it. Early the next morning, White Fan was at the cave, waiting outside. The Dalong mountain wasn't very far from Dajiang. Before coming, I had Li Hu and Mingguang take some people to chop a lot of black-skin bamboo in the back mountain. We sharpened the bamboo to make simple fishing spears, no matter where we chop through the ice. As long as there's an ice hole, fish will appear, I said with certainty. Everyone listened with blank faces. The 40 or 50 people who came all chopped their own ice holes. Later we will guard this whole entrance, waiting for the fish to show their faces. After a while, a fish mouth suddenly appeared in the hole, opening and closing to start breathing. I immediately grabbed the bamboo spear beside me, and thrust it directly right below the big fish's mouth. With a muffled squelch, the others were all nervously staring at my actions. Unexpectedly, I bent down and reached out my hand, grabbing the bamboo spear with one hand, reaching towards the ice hole with the other, pulling straight up towards the water surface that was flushed with blood. Then I dropped onto my butt on the ice surface, yanked out of the ice hole by me. There was an extra large fish about a meter long, bouncing lively on the ice. Seeing the big fish almost fall back into the ice hole, Mingguang hurriedly grabbed another bamboo spear to block the big fish. The big fish flopped around a few more times, then lay stiffly on the ice, motionless. A cheer erupted from the crowd. Then, the people around all started guarding their own ice holes, waiting for the big fish to show their heads. Soon, Li Hu thrust down a bamboo spear directly. The water surface turned crimson. Then I saw Li Hu, just like me, reach his hand to pull the big fish. A big fish over a meter long was hauled up by Li Hu. It flopped a few times and then also stiffened up, motionless. Li Hu excitedly blew on his hands. We can really catch fish. Now the tribe won't lack food. Quick, someone come help me. This fish is too big. I can't pull it up. Shouts rang out one after another. Mingguang and Li Hu watched as the big fish were caught one by one, their faces flushed with excitement. Soon after, almost every ice hole had quite a few piled up in front of it. With this, for the tribe's next few days, there would be no need to worry about food anymore. Li Hu knelt on one knee again, one hand forward, joyfully saying, "Thank you to the great chieftain for your guidance." At this time, all the people around saw Li Hu's action. They all put down the bamboo spears in their hands, kneeling on one knee. I instantly went from great embarrassment to being helpless. Fishing ended very quickly, because almost everyone had to carry 5 or 6 big fish on their backs. This made Li Hu and Mingguang exceptionally excited. They never thought they could hunt so much food at one time. I also didn't expect that ice fishing would yield so many fish. No wonder Uncle Mingguang said, "In the past, you could smash fish with a big stick standing on the shore." I thought of my past life. When I was young, I read an article describing the Great Northern Wilderness, saying people beat roe deer with sticks and scoop fish with gourds, and wild pheasants would fly right into the cooking pots. Just as I was walking and thinking, I suddenly noticed Li Hu had stopped his steps and stood directly beside me. A large group of people came before us, and a few of them had their faces painted with colorful markings. Their hair was neatly tied up. These people were from a large tribe, because only people from a large tribe would have the free time to tie their hair up and use colors to distinguish warriors from ordinary tribesmen. Tied hair and colors are symbols of identity and status. What surprised me the most was, their leader was actually a young girl riding an unknown giant beast. The young girl wore pure white animal skin clothes, a pair of eyes as bright as autumn water. She was actually more beautiful than the celebrities I saw in my past life, but her pair of sword-like eyebrows added a bit of heroic spirit. Looking just like a strong woman, the young girl had face painted, warriors standing on her left and right. Before even opening her mouth, she was already full of high spirits. When Li Hu saw the white-clad girl and the mount she was riding, his expression changed drastically. He whispered, "Mutant beast, armored ground dragon." After I pondered, I then used the ancient tribal etiquette, folding both hands in front. "Dare I ask, what business does the superior tribe have here?" Superior tribe is a small tribes, respectful title for huge tribes or huge tribal alliances. The young girl jumped straight down from her mount, with graceful and natural manners. "Hello, my name is Kachangning. I am from the Bluebird tribe. My tribesman and I came here, just passing by. We have no malicious intent." But Li Hu and Mingguang still didn't relax in the slightest, not even daring to breathe loudly. "I heard the great Bluebird tribe is in the extremely distant west. It is one of the 3 largest tribes under heaven. The tribe is said to have scores or hundreds of generals." "Not that many." I looked calmly at the young girl, and bowed again. "Since the superior tribe is just passing passing by. Then we will leave first. Changning spoke out to stop us. I have something to ask you. That is, how did you catch so many fish? Changning's eyebrows curved, her phoenix eyes glittering like stars. I sighed in my heart, knowing that one must bow one's head when under another's roof. Moreover, the young girl in front of me didn't make forceful threats either. It would be better to show goodwill first. Between two evils, choose the lesser. I nodded in agreement, so I roughly explained the ice fishing method. After listening, the young girl looked surprised, simply because this young girl in front of me obviously had a higher IQ and much faster reaction time than the people around. She noticed the special nature of the bamboo fishing spears. You must know that every progress in primitive society in history might be because of a very small thing, but the significance is extremely huge. Like drilling wood to make fire, allowing humanity to never eat raw meat again. Hunting with stones could separate humans from animals. Even simple stone clubs and wooden clubs, in the various struggles of primitive society, could give people the upper hand. Using bamboo to make fishing spears to catch fish, others might not notice anything, but those who could react deeply knew how formidable it was, because this kind of weapon had never appeared before. At this moment, the young girl Changning suddenly asked with a smile, "Then can you take me to your tribe to have a look?" Rest assured, I really have no malicious intent. Changning smiled easily. I'm not interested in your food, and I won't rob you. At least the bluebird warriors with me won't do such things yet. I just want to see the great chieftain of your tribe, to seek his guidance. Seek guidance from our great chieftain. Li Hu looked at me with a strange expression, but then quickly turned his face away to look at the girl. What do you want to ask our great chieftain for guidance on? The girl chuckled lightly. Just to ask him, besides knowing how to make this kind of fish gig, does he know how to make other weapons? Rest assured I won't ask him for nothing. Changning pointed to the armored ground dragon behind her. If you can let me meet him, and let me get the method I want, this ground dragon is yours. Really? Li Hu's breathing became rapid. The armored ground dragon is not just as simple as a mount. Most of the beasts in the jungle are afraid of it. With such a ground dragon here, the tribe can also be saved from the invasion of many fierce beasts, especially a tribe that has an armored ground dragon. It is also a sign of having a large tribe as a backer. In the future, their tribe will no longer be harassed by other tribes. Are the words spoken by my bluebird tribe ever false? The previous painted-faced man shouted arrogantly again. Agili Changning frowned, obviously a bit depressed. If you act like this again, believe it or not, I will tell my father not to let you out of the tribe. The man quickly shut his mouth. Changning looked at me and Li Hu again, with an apology on her face. Please forgive the recklessness of my clansmen. I sincerely want to ask for guidance. Didn't you want to see the great chieftain of our tribe? I said calmly. Changning was stunned, her brows furrowed again. You are the great chieftain. How is it possible? You are not even as old as me. In our tribe, you could only receive training. I sighed inwardly. The children of the poor take charge early. But the girl's curiosity was just curiosity. She immediately returned to the main topic. Since you are the great chieftain, then it saves me a trip. Besides being able to spear fish, does this bamboo gig have any other uses? Or rather, do you know how to make other powerful weapons? She paused, and quickly added, if you tell me, this armored ground dragon will be given to you. Hearing this, my heart was moved. If I really had this armored ground dragon as a mount, wouldn't it be much cooler than riding horses in my previous life? I agreed. I took a bamboo gig from the person behind me, calling it a bamboo gig. It's just a black-skinned bamboo pole sharpened at one end. Although simple, I have other wonderful uses for it. I took a deep breath, recalling my previous life. The essentials of throwing a javelin learned in physical education class. I stepped back a few paces, then quickly took a few steps forward. I held the rear half of the bamboo gig backhand with my right hand, aimed at that tree, and violently flung out the bamboo body. It shook out an arc in the air, and then pierced straight into the trunk of that tree. The bamboo body trembled endlessly. The tip of the bamboo penetrated 2 or 3 inches. Anyone could see the power of this bamboo gig, especially Mingguang. As a hunter, he understood particularly well what such a weapon represents during hunting. Mingguang was excited and regretful. Great chieftain, you shouldn't. Before he could finish, I smiled and shook my head. It's fine over here. Changning had her small mouth open, her eyes wide open, with a face full of shock. This is the fish gig you talked about. So powerful. Saying that, she looked at me. Can you let my man try it? I handed her a bamboo spear. Changning turned and handed it to the previous painted-faced man. Agili, you come. The man was obviously very surprised. He reached out and took the bamboo spear. I didn't expect this man named Agili to copy the moves. He actually learned to copy my moves quite well, but he didn't have the essentials of throwing a javelin. He failed to hit the big tree. The bamboo tip just scraped across the thick bark. Even so, that tree had a half-foot square piece of bark directly torn off by the bamboo tip, and the bamboo body continued its momentum, plunging straight into the ground for about 10 centimeters. I thought secretly in my heart, Agili has such great strength. Agili's face obviously couldn't hold up, but Changning didn't care about these. She trotted to the side of that big tree, picked up the bark, and looked carefully at the bare spot on the tree. There was clearly a dent nearly 1 centimeter deep there. Changning's eyes sparkled continuously. Agili stepped forward and took the bark, and also looked at the scrape on the tree. Finally he reached out to pull the bamboo spear. After feeling the force, a look of shock appeared on his face. How is this possible? This simple fish gig has extraordinary power. If the warriors of the tribe held such bamboo gigs, and threw them out, the lethality would certainly be astonishing. The excitement on his face had not yet faded. He then turned and seriously asked, such a weapon is definitely of great use to our bluebird tribe. Agili was also exceptionally excited. Once our bluebird tribe has such weapons, we will definitely not be harassed by the natives here in the future. Changming excitedly pointed at the ground dragon next to her. This ground dragon is yours. As a thank you to you, I can also give you the things your tribe needs most. Hearing this, I was a little excited. The most urgent problem in the tribe right now is food and clothing supplies, especially furs and salt. The spring cold is steep. If this continues, even if the Monlong tribe doesn't come, they will either freeze to death in the spring cold, or fall into powerlessness due to the salt problem. At the slightest danger, the tribe will suffer a devastating disaster. After thinking carefully, I nodded and said I need furs and salt. Changming nodded solemnly. Then I'll give you this ground dragon first. Later I will find someone to deliver the salt and furs. You will deliver them to us. I frowned and said. Changming was a little anxious and her pretty face flushed. She raised her voice and said, our bluebird tribe has never liked plundering and slaughtering. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been forced out of our homeland by the other two major tribes joining forces. Now we have also migrated here, just wanting to settle and multiply peacefully here. But there are powerful local enemies everywhere. They constantly provoke us. No matter how tyrannical this bluebird tribe was in the past, since they migrated to our place, they are bound to be suppressed by the original native tribes. Even these native tribes might think of swallowing them. In this way, the situation of the bluebird tribe might be very delicate. I took Changming and her group back to the front of the tribe, looking at the thornwood wall across the front. They were all stunned. She reached out and touched the wooden thorns, finally turned to me, and said solemnly, please teach me this method too. I can give you an extra 300 furs, and 30 jars of salt. Changming's face was flushed, her eyes shining as she spoke. Li Hu and Mingguang beside me cried out in surprise. I then looked at Changming. So which one do you want to learn first? Changming's brows furrowed slightly. She pointed at the thornwood wall. My tribe's people say, living places need such things. This thing is divided into 3 layers inside and out. Saying that, I motioned for Changming to go inside and take a look, and told her the simplified version of the protective wall. Suddenly Changming gave a deep bow. It's just that I have a request to tell you. That is to let you lead your tribe to join my tribe. Changming looked at me with an earnest face. I flatly refused. Although the Jiang clan is small, it is also an independent tribe. Changming said anxiously, but you don't even have your own totem. By joining the bluebird tribe, you can immediately have a totem. The people of the tribe will also get more food, and more security guarantees. Hearing this, I said indifferently, it's fine. We will have all these in the future. When she sensed my attitude, Changming felt slightly uncomfortable, and somewhat depressed by my lack of appreciation. But even so, she still calmed her tone, and said, since it is like this, then I will go back now, and have the tribe's people deliver the things to you. The girl Changming turned her head to look at me. In her pretty eyes there was both disappointment and curiosity, an indescribable strange meaning. But she greeted the people who came with her, and left. After Changming left, Li Hu was very nervous. Chieftain, you taught her the usage of the bamboo spear. What if she goes back and brings her clansmen to plunder? I smiled and said, you go get some dry grass, wooden board sticks, and also ropes. After they were brought, I picked up the materials and started weaving. Shortly after, I formed a 1-meter square grass shield. I handed the grass shield to Li Hu, and told him to hold it up to protect his front. I picked up a bamboo spear, and threw it directly at the grass shield in Li Hu's hand. Li Hu only felt a tremor running down both arms. After that there was nothing unusual, then a completely unbelieving look on his face. Li Hu considered for a moment, and said, Changming of the bluebird tribe, didn't she invite us to join the bluebird tribe? What if she gets angry because we refused? I was slightly startled, then nodded. It is necessary to make some preparations. I turned back to look at Li Hu. You go call 20 or so people over. Then I contacted the system in my mind. Use 100 achievement points to exchange for 2 iron shovels, because the exchange limit is 3 pieces. I couldn't help complaining, what kind of broken system is this? Why limit the quantity? Then Li Hu quickly gathered the people. I handed the iron shovels to Li Hu. Li Hu's eyes narrowed. This is a divine artifact that only large tribes have. The people around looked at the iron shovels, showing astonished expressions one after another. In their eyes, the iron shovel was simply no different from a divine artifact. I was too lazy to explain anymore. Now it belongs to our Jiang clan. Just use it to dig dirt. Dig dirt? Li Hu was incredulous, and exclaimed, such a divine artifact should be placed in the ancestral land and worshipped. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, this is an iron shovel. It is used for digging dirt. This is my instruction as the great chieftain. With just this one sentence, no one around had any more objections. I took the people people to a selected spot near a big tree, used a wooden stick to draw a large circle 2 meters in diameter. I stood in the center of the circle myself, and said, "Right here, dig a well out." I reached out and took the iron shovel, and started digging. These actions seemed completely normal to me, but placed in the eyes of these people around, it was shocking. That is a divine artifact after all. Don't know if it was because of the motivation brought by the iron shovel, or the pressure brought by my identity as the great chieftain. Every person who took the iron shovel acted completely like they were gambling with their lives. They started digging dirt. What made everyone excited was, at the position of 6 or 7 meters, the soil layer had started to become moist. After another 2 hours or so, the vines used to haul dirt were already 12 or 13 meters long. A cry of surprise suddenly came from the bottom of the well. Water is coming out. The people at the mouth of the well heard it, and hurried to pull up the vines. Then saw 4 individuals covered in mud hastily climb out, while a sound of flowing water came continuously from the bottom of the well, followed closely by water. The water level at the bottom of the well visibly rose up with the naked eye. A smell mixed with mud and underground grass roots welled up. My eyes brightened. Only true mountain spring water is like this. The people around cheered in unison. I brought a vine, hanging a skin pouch, fetched half a pouch of water, held the skin pouch and took a sip. There really is a sweet taste. Lee, who couldn't help imitating, also used the vine hanging a skin pouch to fetch some water, and impatiently took a sip too. It was just one sip. Lee, whose eyes suddenly widened. His expression was first surprised, then shocked, and finally wild with joy. Lee, who beat his chest and stamped his feet, shouting and yelling. And at this time, the other well not far away was also dug out. The water source condition was about the same as the previous well. The surroundings cheered once again, and over here Lee, who had already impatiently fetched water, and ran towards the thatched hut where the old chieftain was. As he ran, he yelled wildly, "Everyone go to the wall to get water." The great chieftain excavated wells for us to get water. So the people in the tribe walked out of their respective caves and thatched houses one after another, and rushed toward the protective wall in unison. After drinking the sweet-tasting well water, the whole tribe boiled over. That night, everyone in the entire tribe was brimming with joy. The fish caught during the day, and the meat hoarded previously were all brought out. The people in the tribe all gathered in front of the thatched hut, lit fires and roasted meat, with happy voices and laughter. The next day, waking up and eating breakfast, I arrived at the 6th cave on the east mountain. When I got there, Li Hu and Mingwang were also there, while the ground dragon was lying lazily at the entrance of the cave. Ignoring them, Li Hu looked awful, and sighed helplessly. When that Chongming of the Blue Bird tribe left yesterday, she didn't tell us the command password. Now we simply can't order him around. It was then that I realized, controlling wild beasts also requires special grants and commands. My mind stirred, remembering that I had seen beast taming skill in the mall. I communicated with the system again. The system prompted that primary beast taming skill required 500 achievement points. I was dumbfounded. A primary beast taming skill costs 500 points. Wouldn't this take me back to pre-liberation overnight? However, when I saw the ground dragon lying on the ground looking lazy, the anger in my heart flared up again. Without high input, how can there be high output? Exchange for primary beast taming skill. Immediately, my own mind had more information about taming beasts. I smiled and walked up to the ground dragon, and spoke again, but it was a string of sounds that others couldn't understand. Hulyulu tu Hulyulu sha. Li Hu and Mingwang surprisingly opened their eyes wide, looking at me with a face full of confusion. What surprised the two even more was, the ground dragon that had originally been dead still, actually stood up from the ground at this time, staring with wide eyes looking at me curiously. I was overjoyed, and shouted loudly again, Hulu tulu tutu hulu hulu. The ground dragon's originally curious eyes instantly widened, then it actually stretched its head towards me, as if verifying the aura on my body, making a sound surging in its throat just like snoring at the same time. Hulyulu. I took the opportunity to reach out and gently pat the ground dragon's big head. The ground dragon actually took a step forward at this time, and rubbed against me very docilely with its head. Li Hu and Mingwang were all greatly shocked. The look in their eyes towards me was like looking at a monster. So it turns out our own great chieftain knows how to tame beasts, especially this armored ground dragon right in front of us. Finally, something that completely overturned the two people's cognition happened. The ground dragon actively prostrated itself on the ground, shaking its head and wagging its tail, as if urging me to sit on its back. I suppressed my excitement, and straddled up by pressing on the ground dragon's armored back. Then I patted the ground dragon's neck. The ground dragon stood straight up. At the same time, the ground dragon let out a roar. I was also startled by this sound, thinking secretly in my heart, this armored ground dragon is nothing but a descendant of herbivorous dinosaurs. Yet it actually has such a dragon's roar. So I patted patted the ground dragon's head, motioning for it to walk towards the outside of the mountain. Riding the ground dragon, looking at the tribe below the mountain, I had a feeling of heading out to conquer the world. The people of the whole tribe were looking at the chieftain riding the dragon, like a heavenly god descending. When we arrived next to the thornwood wall, I then let out a hulu-tulu sound at it. Then the ground dragon lay directly next to the thornwood wall. This ground dragon has a deterrent effect on the beasts in the jungle. With it here, the tribe will be much safer. I immediately called Li Hu and Mingguang over. A dozen people, some cutting trees and some cutting grass, under my command, in less than an hour from start to finish. A grass shed suitable for the ground dragon to live in was built. Then the crowd left amidst gasps of exclamation, leaving only me, Mingguang, and a few others behind, because the hunting team was going out to hunt again tomorrow. I said to Mingguang, "There is ready-made prey right near the tribe this time." Mingguang was taken aback for a moment. Then he shook his head. "Great chief, the antelopes in this jungle are simply too cunning. We simply cannot catch them." I smiled and said, "Since that's the case, then let them deliver themselves into our hands." Li Hu and Mingguang looked at each other, with their faces full of confusion. I smiled mysteriously. "You will know when we catch the sheep tomorrow." The things I asked Mingguang to prepare, besides salt, there were also animal tendons and vines. I rubbed the animal tendons into tendon ropes, to be kept for tying up the sheep. As for the vines, they were used to weave nets. Before dawn the next day, Li Hu appeared in the cave, and woke me up. All the 50 or so young and strong men of the entire tribe turned out completely. Almost everyone carried leather pouches filled with salt water on them, and vine nets, ancient knives, bamboo spears, as well as tendon ropes. I also had someone bring the 2 iron shovels along. The group quickly arrived at the location Mingguang mentioned. The sky was still not bright. I held a torch and looked around. The surroundings had clearly been grazed by herbivores. I chose a place where the vegetation was relatively lush, and there were few tooth marks. The people around all gathered closer. I reached out and picked up a bamboo spear, and drew a circle 8 meters long and 2 meters wide on the ground. "Everyone, hurry up and dig out all the dirt in this circle. Throw the dirt a bit further away." 2 iron shovels plus more than 50 ancient knives. In almost less than an hour, dug out the pit I wanted. Now chop a few branches and lay them across this pit. Then put the vine nets on top. After doing all this, everyone looked at me with a bewildered expression. It was hard for me to explain, so I continued saying, "Now everyone cut the grass nearby, and lay it on the vine nets to cover them completely, until the nets cannot be seen." In a short while, a grass-covered trap was thus completed. Then, I had them sprinkle the salt water from the leather pouches onto the grass trap. At the same time, I also had Li Hu and Mingguang sprinkle salt water for about 10 meters on the outer edge of the trap. Then I led the tribe members to hide far away. Not long after, a flock of wild sheep, about 30 or so, appeared. Sure enough, 2 wild sheep noticed the salty taste on the green grass. Quickly, other sheep also noticed the clues, and began scrambling to graze on that strip of green grass sprinkled with salt water. Everyone watched in absolute amazement. About 30 wild sheep, fighting and vying to graze in the direction of the trap. Before they had time to enjoy the delicacy, they fell directly into the trap. The rest of the wild sheep leaped up and landed, falling into it like dumplings dropping into a pot. Of the more than 30 wild sheep behind, only 6 or 7 were left that had not fallen into the trap. Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva, obviously shocked by such a scene. Even I had not expected that these wild sheep, in order to eat another mouthful of saltwater grass, would actually be so reckless. As for the remaining few sheep, without any surprise, they were completely surrounded by more than 50 people, and were all forced to jump into the trap. For a moment, the whole trap was fully packed with wild sheep, especially because they were entangled in the vine nets. These wild sheep were like being stuck in a quagmire, unable to make a single move. From digging the pit to the wild sheep falling into it, it took no more than 2 hours from beginning to end. The IQs of these wild sheep seemed to be not even half as high as the sheep from my previous life. I sighed in my heart, but on second thought, I realized these wild sheep had never seen a trap before, so naturally, they would not have thought they would be caught like this. Nearly 30 wild sheep drew cheers of joy from everyone. Then, under my guidance, a fence wall built with tree branches was erected. The wall was covered with thorny wood vines. Looking at such a large sheep pen, which only held about 30 wild sheep, I unconsciously stroked my chin. With so little family wealth, I felt a bit shabby as a farm owner. That night, the entire tribe lit the bonfire again. The tribe was immersed in the cheers calling "Great Chief" and "Great Sage," holding a sheep leg in one hand and a stone bowl in the other. I suddenly thought of the taste of roasted mutton legs in my previous life. There were cumin, chili powder, and black pepper. So many complete seasonings smeared on all at once. Eating it was incredibly enjoyable, if accompanied by some ice-cold beer too. I looked again at the smoky and fire-scorched thing in my hand, a mutton leg with only salt added, and suddenly felt it was dull and tasteless. Such a good mutton leg could only be paired with well water. I felt somewhat like crying without tears. It seemed the tribe's recipes needed to be urgently improved. I said to Li Hu and Mingguang, Tomorrow we will continue to hunt. Mingguang and Li Hu's eyes lit up, with joy hanging on their faces. Are we still going to catch wild sheep? I shook my head. Just find a few people to go and check the trap. We are going to catch the speckled feather dragons. The so-called speckled feather dragon was the primitive chicken, which is the ancestor of the chicken. Mingguang was taken aback. How do we catch the speckled feather dragons? Although they are not as big as wild sheep, they run much faster. I smiled and said to Mingguang, tomorrow bring vines, bamboo spears, and tendon ropes. Get some more wooden thorns from the thorny wood vines, and take a large fish from the cave. Cut its meat into small, thin strips and bring them along. Mingguang frowned in confusion but agreed. The next morning, Li Hu took 7 or 8 people to the trap where we caught the sheep yesterday, while I followed Mingguang, taking 30 or 40 people in another direction. Because the things we brought were so few, it made everyone unable to believe this was going hunting. The group arrived at the destination before long. Mingguang hurried to hand over the fish strips wrapped in animal skin. I grabbed a handful and scattered a little on the ground nearby. Then I brought over a tree branch, folded the plucked leaves in half, and pushed them open from the middle with my hands into a small triangular bowl shape. I took out the thorny with thorns and fixed the shape of the small bowls. Then I took a piece of fish strip and put it inside, and casually threw the leaf bowl containing the fish strip onto the ground. Then everyone successively followed my steps and did the same. In less than a moment, about 200 small leaf bowls were placed on the ground. Now we just had to wait for the primitive chickens to take the bait. Everyone was half believing and half doubting, and each found a bushy area to hide in. Not long after, in the grassy area where I had just thrown the fish strips, a flock of primitive chickens did indeed arrive. Their size was much larger than the chickens of later times, especially their heads, which had protruding bone crests. Spectacular, my goodness. This is going to make us rich. Why are there so many of these primitive chickens? I became excited in my heart. In a short while, the primitive chickens noticed the fish strips dropped in the grass. Sure enough, after tasting the delicious fish strips, the primitive chickens started to become restless, bowing their heads to find food on the ground. Quickly, these primitive chickens noticed the fish strips in the leaf bowls. They opened their beaks to peck at the fish meat in the small leaf bowls, but before touching the fish meat inside, they bit down on the thorny with thorns set across the top. As a result, the leaf was like a large-sized mask, which not only covered the primitive chicken's beak, but also covered its eyes. The blindfolded primitive chickens, on one hand, were unwilling to loosen their bite. On the other hand, they couldn't see the path ahead of them. They could only carry the leaf bowl in their beaks and stumble around blindly dizzily, while the crowd hiding in the dark were all wondering what kind of witchcraft I had cast. At this time, I picked up a vine net and rushed forward, shouting at the same time, "Everyone, attack!" Awakened by my words, the Jiang tribe members cheered enthusiastically, picked up their vine nets, and just wildly wrangled the chaotic flock of primitive chickens. In less than 10 minutes from start to finish, we caught over 100 primitive chickens. It was another great bumper harvest, so I led the people back to the tribe, which caused another sensation, because everyone who went out hunting was holding 3 or 4 primitive chickens in their hands, thinking that they were still wild, and having suddenly lost their freedom to be locked up. If the space was too confined, they could easily die of anger, so I gathered everyone to weave a large chicken coop with me, large enough to put all these chickens inside. Indeed, there is strength in numbers. Almost all the people in the tribe who could exert effort came to weave the fenced chicken coop. It was completed in less than half an hour from beginning to end. Such a ground-level coop, with an opening facing the sky nearly 3 meters high, and an area of 200 to 300 square meters, this extra-large chicken coop was thus woven. Then, I had the people put the primitive chickens into the chicken coop one by one. After finishing the work, I returned to the cave where I lived. The things placed in the cave were pitifully few: thatch grass, animal skins, and a stone jar. Other than that, there were no other possessions. I sighed again. At any rate, I am the great chief of a tribe, but even the place where I live is so shabby. It seemed many foundational things in the tribe needed to be set up.